Sejuani still coming across. They can still chase. Sejuani flashes forward. There's the grand entrance. And there goes Sheo, sent back in a body bag.
I come down, Jenny. Nice. Get off, guys. Get off. Ah,
Cheers, please. Yeah,
Watch me.
Guys, this one back me. It's good. Your time.
Let's go. It's BDS's day. Sejuani trying to tank up on that front line, but Ice still healthy enough to open up the big guns. The second Nexus tower falls, and BDS have a date with the top 4.
Welcome to the Marriott Bonvoy post-game check-in. I'm here with the victorious Adam. Congratulations on the win, Adam. Before we talk about anything else, the first thing you told me when you came here, you're like, I'm tilted. We played like, why?
We played like shit. I mean, we actually did. That was not pretty games, I would say. Like, not up to our standards. I don't know, in streams we play good. And lately on stage, I just feel like we're like, you know, terrified, actually. So, still good games to review and try to be better next time.
All right, let's take it all the way from the beginning. Let's walk straight into game 1. Draft the Rumble unbanned. Now, we were having a chat with the other analysts backstage, and it kind of looked like you guys were not prepared for the Rumble to actually be available for you, as we'll have the draft play on the screen in just a second. Was that the case?
I mean, we kind of expected them to ban Rumble, like every team does, usually.
Worldwide, pretty much.
Yeah, like worldwide, right? But like they kind of prepared the strategy because, like, basically they trade one OP, which is Rumble, for 2 OPs in the current meta, which are Tristana, Sejuani. I think it was good on hindsight, but I don't think it's worth trading because you still have good answers into Tristana, especially with the meta mid that is like so diverse right now. You can pick so much ADs that can actually match Tristana in lane, and you're just chilling.
All right, however, we didn't necessarily see an AD that can match Tristana this time around. At least I'm not going to ask you for any secrets behind the scenes. I want to ask you, what are you looking to change moving forward? Because right now, you guys lost to G2, dropped into the lower bracket. G2 is on the lower bracket, so to make it into the finals, you got to go past them again.
I mean, we still want to win the split. You know, we actually believe it deeply. And I mean, when I take a look at our performance lately, I'm not going to lie, it looks hard. Unless we just like become what we were during the regular split. I think we're like really good during the best of ones, but for the best of threes, I do think that we're a different team. I'm not sure how you can explain that, to be honest. It's just, it feels way different to play in game, and like we're not exactly BDS.
You need to bring some scream on your stage games, right?
We can just play the game. We just play the game, like together, because sometimes it feels like it's just one guy playing his game, the second guy as well. We have a bit trouble connecting.
There was one guy that played his game, and it was very well done as well. Ice gets player of the series right here. Congratulations to him. He bailed you out of a very sticky situation with you, Zeri. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me in the interview, and back to you, Desk.
Thank you very much, Trouble and Adam. Adam perhaps as bewildered as we are after that series, and we'll just hope that BDS, as they look ahead, can show us a greater showing. Ultimately, a win is a win, and that's all that matters. They will live to fight another day. We'll see if we see GX in the season finals. But for now, heading into our second series, SK versus KC. Stakes are high, and I love KC for this. It's so simple. We don't have to worry about points. I don't have to worry about what anyone else is doing. They just have to make top 3. We'll get Odo in here with the spinny cat from 2 weeks ago. He just doesn't make top 3, right? And again, I think that it's so incredible because making it to playoffs didn't feel like enough to reignite my faith in KC, but that series they played against MDK started to kick things up a notch, and GB, you were the one to kick off this discussion when they finally made it to playoffs. Let's take a look at where KC are now.
Yeah, I mean, they already did something they had never done before, right? They made it to playoffs, and they had to do so much more to make it all the way. You already summarized it. But even their series against G2, albeit they lost, it still looked like a great performance from them. And I think against MDK, it just solidified that as well. I think moving forward, they are in the best possible form they could be going into this. We've not seen them be better at all. This is the highest peak we've seen from them.
Yeah, and I think in
a playoffs with, you know, I don't have a better word, but a really fraudulent playoffs where a lot of teams you'd expect to do extremely well, like BDS, who are shaky, G2, who just lost to Fnatic. I think KC has been one of our more convincing teams, and it's come out of left field to me. They've been really, really surprising. I've especially been impressed by players like Closer, who have facilitated the lanes really well.
I'm still reeling from fraudulent playoffs.
Yeah.
Shaky
Okay,
playoffs,
no, I think we should go, no. We cut it in half. We have an upper bracket, cool, normal playoffs. Lower bracket, cool, we can call that whatever we want then. But I think you're right, there's been so many standout players as well from KC. I think Vladi's one you can talk about. I think Upset has really been more aggressive with his plays as well. He's been threading that line, not so careful anymore. He's trying to be risky with his plays. His management is great, and even though his KDA is still looking good, he's making the most of it.
They updated the copy pasta in the Reddit threads.
They did.
They love to hate this guy, but they updated the copy pasta in that series. They recognized how damn good he was in the context of that MDK series. But of course, the question we have to ask is, was it enough? Yes, it was enough for MDK. Is it enough to take down a team like SK, #1 in the regular season? We're pretty consistent in terms of closing out games, but maybe not in terms of game-to-game performance.
This might be a slightly unpopular opinion, but I actually predict KC to 2-0 this. I think KC have shown really, really good things, especially in the mid-game, sometimes shaky in the early game, but that's where I think SK have done even worse. I think there have been a lot of game states that people ignore for SK, where they're down 3 Dragons versus Team Heretics, and then suddenly they have to outplay, and I feel like KC in the mid-game can beat that.
I do agree with the point, but even though that's your prediction, well, I still feel like coming into the day, SK are favorites, despite how good KC's look personally. I think the ceiling we've seen from SK throughout playoffs as well, I think there's star power and as well there's mechanics to bail themselves out of situations where it's not looking too good, is also a factor you have to accept when you go into a best of series, albeit they haven't really performed as well as we saw in regular season. I still have high expectations of a team like SK.
We're moments away from the game. One final note from each of you. Prediction, you said it, but I need to know scores. A 2-0, and give me a one line as to why they're going to win.
Convincing 2-0.
Convincing 2-0 for KC. That's enough for me.
Yep.
GB?
I can't back down against that. I have to go
Convincing
convincing
2-0 for
SK.
SK. Convincing
right?
2-0 either way. A quick end of the day, potentially. Trouble, of course, did sit down earlier with KC head coach Reha in the Marriott Bonvoy pregame lobby. Let's hear what he had to say about this particular matchup.
I'm sitting here with coach Reha. I hope I said that correctly, ahead of your series versus SK. How are we feeling going into this one?
Yeah, I'm feeling very good. I think we have momentum based on the Mad Lions series that we just played. So the preparation has been short. So hopefully we come up with the right ideas to beat SK. But yeah, the team is feeling good. We are confident. We know it's a team that we can play. So yeah, feeling really well.
I wanted to ask you about confidence in general and how that relates to the pressure you guys have been going through. There were so many expectations with KC joining the LEC all the way back in winter and how it didn't go that great. But now you guys are making playoffs. How is the pressure versus expectations on your side?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's been a difficult year for everyone, especially for the people that have been there ever since the beginning. We had to make tough choices, as everyone knows. But same time, yeah, as you said, there was lots of pressure, lots of expectation, thinking that maybe we will be able to go to the top. But like every team, we know you have to take a step back if you did something wrong and see what you can do better. I'm really happy about the fact that the team is top 6 right now. And to be honest, we are like thriving and aiming at even better. So it's up to us now to do the right things to make sure that we can also like make people proud, you know. Like I think top 6 is a good improvement based on the previous splits, but I think even going better, going season finals, I think it's a good objective for us, and I hope we can make it. Yeah.
Top 6 is great, but what not do even better, as you mentioned? Now, of course, I'm glad you mentioned season finals because you're one of those teams that you don't necessarily secured the points yet. However, your fate is in your own hands, which is the best thing you can ask for. You guys make top 3, you lock into season finals. You're going to have to play first versus SK Gaming, and they did look fantastic in the regular split. They had a little bit of a fumble in playoffs so far. How strong do you think they are in relation to your team?
Yeah, so for sure, they're a good team. I think I respect them a lot. But at the same time, it's not a team that I fear a lot. I respect them, and I think they can for sure put up a good show against us. But it's all about how we prepare, how we come up on the stage, and if we're able to replicate what we do in scrims, just like we've been doing in the last 2 weeks, like relieve the pressure from stage and just play freely, I think we have a good shot at beating them. But for sure, they have good individualities, they are a good collective, and also they are a team that's changed from the previous split and has improved, and you never know what the ceiling can be, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to play against them there.
Two teams that have improved massively. Thank you very much for this interview and best of luck in your series versus SK Gaming. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much.
And here we are for the second series of the day. SK versus Karmine Corp as the players take to the stage. Karmine Corp, it's been improvement on improvement over the last month or so, continuing to impress. In their first series against G2, they looked like a much improved team from the summer regular season. Closer deciding going around the outside is for noobs, apparently.
This way. It's the most efficient path there.
That's the jungler's mentality for you right now.
All right, I like the mentality that KC have coming into game one against SK. Of course, I think that it is fair to put SK as the favorites coming into this series. Interesting to hit Eragon with high expectations on KC based on what we've been seeing from them. I had the pleasure of casting their G2 series, and I was really optimistic with the game plan that they came in with and were able to execute upon it. I feel like it's something we've been missing from them all year long, and I'm excited to see what they've got prepared against SK. Meanwhile, on the other side, SK ultimately have probably felt frustration with their own performances. They were a very convincing top 4 team, and then they went up against Fnatic. Many considered them favorites against Fnatic, and then they floundered. They weren't able to deliver upon the level with which we've seen from them. And so now we'll see if they're able to perform today. A lot of the pressure is on as KC's riding that momentum over a big win against Man.
And that's the thing. I think the optimism for KC has come from that strong performance against G2 and a very good look against MDK, particularly that game 2. They were in full control the entire way through. So I think everyone kind of going and taking another look at KC to kind of go, well, where exactly do you now land in the grand scheme of things?
For Karmine Corp, of course, need to make top 3 in summer if they're going to make it to the season finals. SK thanking Vedius for winning earlier today. They're already into our season finals alongside G2 Fnatic, MDK, and Vedius. So, Vi and Kai'Sa removed by SK on the blue side. Rumble and Gnar taken away by Karmine Corp. The Gnar obviously targeted towards Irrelevant. There's the Zeri ban, so already 2 AD carries taken out of the pool, but not the 2 we have seen most commonly today. Tristana and Ashe still available.
So got the brand as well, which probably won't. See, I mean, Isma has played a little bit of the Nidalee and has tended towards some of the AP junglers, but definitely lended more towards Sejuani, Maokai, these kind of things. And going up against Closer, I don't think that's a terrible idea, because I kind of look at Closer in the same vein, where he wants these strong, proactive early game junglers, and that's why we saw the Vi banned away specifically against him.
Sejuani also going to be taken away by the looks of things. So they're really trying to put some pressure on Closer and his ball, seeing what else he can have impact on. Canna, of course, showcased a wealth of champions so far in playoffs. 4 unique champions across 4 games, same can be said for Targamas. Let's see what their priorities are coming into game 1. Will it be AP junglers with Syra, Brand, champions that were mainstay in the G2 Fnatic series yesterday? We didn't really get to see a huge amount of them earlier in the BDS versus Giant X series. But the Ezreal right now is the hover for, well, it could be Vladi, it could be Upset, but for those that are long-time Upset followers, you'll know that his Ezreal was something that he was very well known for when he debuted on the scene.
Yeah, and I think it's just trying to force him onto something that's not Kai'Sa, because you can see it's already banned away. This has been the go-to for Upset. He has looked fantastic on it. His aggressiveness in fights has really been the standout performer for Karmine Corp in a lot of these kind of skirmishes that we see. So now putting him on towards the Ezreal, still a very strong champion for him, but certainly one where he can still have that carry performance as well.
With the Sejuani already locked in and Azir on the other side. Who else but Corki? Corki Azir always comes back to the front of the mesa when we get towards the latter half of the year. SK now likely to pick their AD carry alongside this, or risk the pool getting a little bit pinched going into the second phase of picks. Could go for support if you want a little bit more engaged and you don't really care where down the rabbit hole your AD carry falls, but with Ashe being up, pick potential, follow up with the Sejuani, it just feels really strong. Instead, they'll go for the MF.
Oh, I mean, Rell and Luon have had an incredibly deep champion pool ever since they joined the LEC. They've showcased a wealth of different champions, and MF is simply going to be added to the list. Similarly to our previous series, Leona, very low in terms of the priority list. The Maokai are going to be locked in for Karmine Corp, as they likely will put it in the jungle to pair alongside the Azir. And now that means that there's room for supports to be banned, maybe even Karmine Corp to just lock that in initially and then limit the options that SK have.
Yeah, and I like the MF because traditionally when you look at the Ezreal, like, oh, well, Ezreal can just arcane shift out. But the way we're seeing MF played at the moment is that bloodthirster rush into I'm going to just bully you in lane, outperform you in lane, and get a ton of resources that way, and open up for Luon to then start to roam. And when Luon has preferred things like, you know, the Alistair and these kind of things, the Rell that can set up for great engages, I think it's about trying to play around Nisqy on this Corki, which could work out very well for SK in this sort of situation. And then you rely on the misfortune later on to play around the great setup from the likes of whatever engaged support you have, from the CC coming through from the Sejuani. And it works very difficult then for Karmine Corp to try and play into all of that.
Braum ban is a good one, I think, especially against Misfortune. Sejuani as well. Braum can be a great just mediator at soaking up that initiation. But Leona, Rell, both still available. The ones most played so far in summer has been the Rell, a great initiation champion. Of course, a lot of mobility on the side of Karmine Corp with the Azir and the Ezreal at their disposal. It's SK that actually choose to ban away the Leona, denying that away from Targamas.
Looks like Targamas is going to go for Rakan. And then SK, I mean, as you say, the Rell still very much a possibility. You have so much AoE control of a team fight as well with that Magnet Storm. If you wanted to be really aggressive in the lane, you could go for something like the Ashe, but we really haven't seen Ashe support in a while.
No one has played it though.
Yeah, he has a couple of times. It's going to be the Rell instead, gives you much more power in team fights and has great roam potential. And there's Kennen.
Hey.
So, AoE for days on the side of SK.
Team fight comp.
If you want to say wombo combo the comp, it's almost Curse of the Sad bullet time level of combination here for SK Gaming.
I mean, yeah, it's a very straightforward composition. They have a strong bot side of the map as well. Misfortune and Rell. Maybe early levels, Ezreal should be able to get the push, but the Jayce response from Canna into the Kennen. So we're getting a little bit more of an interesting matchup on the top side of the map this time around. No tank v tank. The Kennen versus the Jayce matchup can definitely be very volatile with some jungle involvement. I'm excited to see. But Karmine Corp, they have range. Something that we've been seeing a huge amount in the current meta with their amount of poke that they have, Ezreal Jayce, the amount of just long-range, consistent DPS that they have at their disposal. The engage tools, I would say, are available, if not the most reliable. We saw how squishy this engage actually was earlier in the day with Maokai and Rakan just being very, well, not as durable as many of the tanks in the meta.
The thing I do like for Maokai, though, particularly into something like a Kennen, is you kind of got two ways you can play it. As Kennen tries to go in, you can either ult onto the rest of the squad as they try to follow up, so you get to turn and burn on towards the Kennen, or you can actually just ult the Kennen himself and prevent him from ever getting into the fight. So I think you've got a lot of options as Maokai for dealing with the Kennen, or even just, you know, rooting him in place. So it's irrelevant, definitely going to have his work cut out, because even just getting past closer, he's then got the exhaust, which is going to be on the Rakan, I assume, as well, coming into this. So you've still got a lot of difficulties as irrelevant to play these team fights.
Let's get on to Summoner's Rift for our fourth game of the day, the first game between these two teams. For SK, they're already into season finals. It's more of a battle for summer playoffs. For Karmine Corp, a win here puts one more brick in that blue wall, gets them one step closer to the ultimate goal of League of Legends in Europe, which is making it to the season finals and lifting that LEC trophy.
And Medic, the stakes are simple. KC need top 3.
Yep, they do.
So they got to win. There's no alternative situation for them. The pressure really is on. They just have to win. As Trouble said in the interview earlier, the destiny is ultimately in their own hands. As long as they keep winning, they can qualify top 3. They can qualify for season finals.
They can win worlds.
They have a chance of making worlds, right?
Again, just don't stop winning. It's simple.
Yeah, it's really simple. You just got to win. If they do fall short here, that will be the end of their year. No season finals, no ability to qualify for the World Championship.
I will say, though, like, this is a team that I definitely want to see more of. It feels like they have finally found their identity, and they've been playing incredibly well as a unit. So even if it is here where they fall, like, this is a team that should be incredibly proud of what they've managed to achieve. But this is not kind of as even, well, as one-sided as people would have thought at the start of the split. Like, KC had become a force to be reckoned with, and SK have to be very careful with this squad.
Yeah, ultimately, we will see today, right? They, even though they showed some impressive stuff against G2, they ultimately fell 2-0. Then, of course, they got the 2-0 versus MDK. And so now that SK kind of sits at the outer edge of the pack of the top teams in Europe. This will be a great benchmark to identify where they sit in Europe right now. We jump into the laning phase, we look at the early pathing, we can see both junglers starting on the bot side of the map, pathing towards top. We talked about how potentially volatile it can be, but already in the bot lane,
Upset has to use his Cleanse Ignite, was ticking there from Luon. That's one of the reasons you often crash down, get that shield on the Rell before the lane begins, because then you just get that little flip. Upset flip back, doesn't have the Arcane Shift, still only level 1, and SK will get the push in this bot side.
Level 2 going to be coming in very soon for SK, and KC's bot lane has to respect it. I wonder if the junglers will deviate from their pathing to compensate for the aggression, or instead they'll leave them to their own devices. Meanwhile, Canna getting that bit of early pressure on the top side of the map.
Yeah, I think this is where the most volatile matchup is and why we're seeing both junglers trying to tend up towards this way. Canna doing a great job to get those early trades in his favor, but certainly going to expect a lot of the jungle to potentially try and get this at either side, because that poke can be very... Oh, hang on.
That's the flash start. Upset no cleanse. Remember, cleanse away from the exhaust, and Upset one more auto from Rahel. He flashes for it. They get it.
Beautiful stuff from Rahel and Luon. Upset not able to get out of harm's way, and just like that, the duo kill picking up one for SK.
I mean, this is the star power from the spot lane that we saw from the regular season. They burnt his cleanse early, they find a way to get his flash, and they even convert it into a kill. Great start for SK.
A big part of it as well was Targamas had just missed his Gleaming Quill, so you didn't have that threat of a little bit of health regen in the middle of the fight. Upset and Targamas were still level 1. And because of that, SK were able to punish. Did have to use all their sums to do so, including that Ignite earlier for the cleanse. Isma's going to trade him onto Closer. Doesn't quite get the second half of the Winter's Wrath, but will get the Permafrost. Canna starting to collapse here. Goes through the acceleration gate. Isma dashes back towards Irrelevant. Nisqy's the first to move from mid, but Vladi's on his way as well. Canna trading with Irrelevant, who has to flash away, and Canna takes the kill. Isma could look for him. No flash now on that Jayce, and Nisqy flashes forward for it. The gasoline gun rat-a-tat-tatting into the back of Canna in the end. Even though the phosphorus bomb misses, Canna will fall to Nisqy.
So nicely done. They end up getting at least a kill on towards Irrelevant now. Canna can TP back in, but in the grand scheme of things, mid wasn't really in a position where Nisqy's going to lose out on a huge amount. You're going to have both top laners die, so it doesn't really net any kind of advantage for either side in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, I will say, SK, no flashes anywhere.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a chaotic situation. I like the idea here from KC, because you know that Jayce has the push. He's able to win out in the early matchup between the Kennen and himself, and Closer commits. Even though he has a health disadvantage, he says, you know what, I think we can commit to this fight and 2v2 win. And Canna recognizes that as well. Decides to engage onto Irrelevant. Isma tries to slow Closer down to set him up for Nisqy to be able to collapse. Nisqy's getting chunked out by Vladi. But then Canna realizes there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to waste their time. He knows he's going to die, so instead he'll just drag Nisqy all the way down the top lane to make sure that he is just wasting as much time as possible. Ends up being a 1-for-1, but now there's a potential replay dive up towards the top side, given the lack of summer spells on the side of SK.
It'd be very difficult for Kennen if he starts to lose out in a lane like this. You're just constantly harassed and dived, as you say, Vladi.
Vladi's the player.
Yes, yeah. But we'll see as well if perhaps Nisqy's punished in the mid lane, because although he has the Valkyrie, when Vladi gets 6, you can just try and slide in. Emperors divide him back. Luon joining up with Rahel down towards the bottom side. This wave slowly pushing towards them, so the SK bot lane doesn't have to worry about anything like a freeze right now.
Yeah, I think you're relatively happy as Rell and Luon on the bot side. Getting that early kill means you get the early Vamp Scepter, which makes it very difficult for what is essentially a mostly poke lane to poke you out of this one. So going to be able to continue to keep this pressure up. And again, I think it's more on Luon to try and start to move around the map and link up with Isma. I don't really feel like there's a huge amount of pressure on them to get too much done right now. Void Grubs are going to be up, but Upset and Targamas being able to get control over that bot side is going to make it very difficult for SK to fully commit to matching that, especially as Targamas should get out of this lane first.
Well, that battle between Rahel and Upset down towards the bottom side is one we have to keep our eyes on throughout the course of the series, because Rahel has struggled in playoffs to have the same impact that he did during the regular season, whereas Upset has really started to find form once again. You can see a third of his team's damage percentage, putting out over 770 damage a minute as well.
Also important to recognize that they did take different paths through the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the big thing is when we look at Rahel, he was someone that really stood out during the regular season, and we had high expectations for him, especially in their series versus Fnatic, where they weren't quite able to perform. Noah really did pop off in that best of 3. I mean, while Upset really has continued to just be a strong carry for KC. And so far, Rahel has been able to get the better of Upset in the 2v2 lane. But we'll see how things continue. That's an 800 gold lead for Rahel already. He's going to be able to leverage that incredibly well. He's making his way up towards the rest of his team. We talked about this before yesterday, Dagda. The strut just gives you so much value when it comes to roaming from lane to lane. He's going to make his way back towards bot as the grubs are secured for SK. 2 for 1 is the ultimate exchange. KC fishing for a bit of a pick, but they realize nothing really going to come off the back of this.
Ultimately, it's just a nice bluff from Rahel. He leaves bot lane, goes over a ward, is like, oh my god, I'm moving up to Void Grubs, better back off, but then just immediately loops back around and heads down to bot lane. So won't lose out on the wave, but at least put enough scare onto KC that they backed up to give 2 of those Void Grubs to SK. So at least been able to utilize a little bit of that push advantage in the bot lane already, and I think we'll continue to see more of this for SK as this laning phase goes on.
Dragon available as well. Earlier, the series before this one, we saw usually Dragon and Grubs exchanged, recognizing that it wasn't even worth trying to fight for the Grubs. Instead, we'll just try and prioritize the Dragon. But this time around, both teams set their sights on the Grubs. And we'll see if both want to try and contest this Dragon or whether it will be another late one. We have been seeing some Dragons starting later and later, 10, 12 minutes into the game, rather than being an early priority. Targamas and Closer both hovering around the mid lane, mainly there to cover for Vladi, making sure that he's not in any danger as he looks to try and push out this wave.
It does mean that you can't cover for Rahel on bot side, so I think with the wave push now on the bottom side, you can see Closer immediately decides to start up Dragon because he knows he's got upset already with that. So they should be able to secure this one. Potential for a cross map as you look towards where Luon is. Could look for a dive onto Canna. His flash is just about to come back up.
Yeah, and Luon's spotted on a ward as well, so Canna could just play safe, hug his tower. Doesn't really have to be a threat under anything. Wave not really pushed in too quickly either, although Irrelevant can rectify that situation. Only the second time we've seen Irrelevant competitively on the Kennen. Last time was all the way back in 2021, where he played it against Game Ward when he was on Team BDS in the LFL. Went 1-6-5 on that occasion, so I'm pretty sure he's looking to have a better day of it today.
I imagine so. I like Targamas' pathing here, able to cover for any potential dive onto Canna. Upset hesitant to step up in the lane. He knows how scary this MF is, and he lacks a lot of crucial information right now. So he's just trying to farm as safely as he can. Wise play from him. Yeah, we're entering a bit of a lull in the mid game. There's no real objectives to play for. The next grub spawning in about a minute and a half. As this Nisqy tries to secure. Oh, he's fine, I think.
Yeah,
that's the W.
Targamas level 4. It's not too much of a threat right now.
There is a lot of commitment towards Irrelevant though. SK really want to try and get him ahead in this lane. Isma now up here. Nisqy had roamed up. I thought to get vision, but maybe even just steal away a camp. So Closer had to get out of top lane quicker. It feels like a lot of what SK are doing is foregoing pressure elsewhere in the map to just try and get Irrelevant into a good spot against Canna where he can try and carry.
For the moment, though, Irrelevant just going to catch the wave underneath his tower. First item for Isma is the Zeke's Convergence, something we're seeing a lot more on, well, especially Sejuani's in the jungle. Very cheap, and just makes you pretty powerful, gives you a big spike for the first, second Drake, depending on the time, or even the grubs here, which are up in 45 seconds.
1k gold lead now for Rahel. The Bloodthirst are likely to come through very soon, as you talked about, Dagda, something we've just been seeing a lot on Misfortunes in the current meta. The grubs are alive in 30 seconds, and look at the minimap. Immediately, Luon's making his way towards mid. The reset is coming out from Upset. I wonder if he'll look to match. Looks like he's pathing there as well. So both teams set their sights on the next objective. They want to be able to contest these grubs. I'm hoping that we get an interesting fight. Kennen ultimate available. Actually has the level advantage over Canna for the time being. Oh, might stand corrected.
And we have a tank Maokai, who might actually be able to absorb some of
That's
the
very
damage
true.
as they go through. I think he'll need to, as well, as Targamas already spots out Luon. Isma just trying to support, but I do think at this stage it's kind of on Closer to keep Irrelevant in check in these fights, either through ult usage, twisted advance or just being able to CC the rest of the team as they try and follow up on Irrelevant's engage.
Crucial difference here though is Vladi is staying with his team as Nisqy's being sent to bot. He has the TP available. It's KC that will start this objective off.
Looks like it might just be given across to them. Vladi actually skipping boots to go straight for the Nash's Tooth. Just went ring straight into the Tooth. TP into the top lane by Canna, but Karmine Corp are going to be able to secure 4 grubs here unless something untoward happens. They get 3, they get 4. Can Closer get out? I believe the answer is yes. No real chase there from SK.
Wow, uncontested. I'm a little surprised. I thought that by sending Nisqy bot, their plan was always to TP, but maybe they just made the call, you know what, there's an opportunity to get a bunch of plates down bot lane. Vladi's going to TP to stop the push continuing from Nisqy. TP used from Canna as well top lane. And ultimately, a nice win there for KC as they find themselves with 4 grubs.
And this will help out Canna because he's already got a bit of an advantage with his Yeoman's Ghostblade completed and could look to punish Irrelevant with those 4 grubs on top side, which is why Isma now trying to move up here to help out, knowing that KC have reset.
Both the TPs were invested by Karmine Corp to make that play happen. The second one from Vladi down towards the bottom side to protect the tower. A couple of plates went over to SK, and because of that, they're about 1.5k ahead, but nothing too monumental as of yet. Irrelevant on the wrong side of this. Flashes away. Closer pulled over the wall, but no backup for Irrelevant means that Closer can just phase rush his way away.
It means that Irrelevant's way less threatening for Rift Herald in about a minute and a half's time. Same when we look at the Dragon. So even though it's only it looks weird, it's only a small win for KC, but something that could blow up into something significantly larger if they play around these objectives.
As much as you said, Closer's job is to mark Irrelevant. Rakan can do that relatively well as well, especially with the exhaust. Just if the Kennen tries to get in without flash, grand entrance. Just knock him up, quickness him, CC him for days, and you have engage from the rest of your team because Closer has the Nature's Grasp. So it's not only Targamas' duty to be that initial engage. Rakan mostly thrives when he's a secondary engage anyway, following up on someone else's initiation. You want people to have burnt some of their mobility because then you can really catch them out with the CC. SK going to be able to get the Scuttle Crab. 15 seconds on the Drake would be SK's first of the game. Karmine Corp have had their pick of the neutral objectives early on in this game. Struck forward by Rahel, upset dashes away with the Arcane Shift.
Still just able to keep pressure here, and that's exactly what we're talking about with this Misfortune pick. It's so difficult to trade into because of the love tap on the passive, and then also the ability to just chase you down the strut. The Bloodthirster mean that you never really win out in any sort of trade because she'll just heal it back up. So upset, sent packing, and that's where SK just using that thread the MF made right to lean into sides here, set up the Dragon, and are very likely going to do a similar story here to try and look for the Rift Herald, but now Canna trying to use those 4 grubs.
Oh, slicing mouse coming out from Irrelevant. More to clear the wave than anything, I thought! Canna, I think, realizing there was the TP behind him, decided to go all out. But Irrelevant taking the kill in the 1v1.
Well, crucially, Canna took a tower shot in that all-in, which I think was just a nice play overall from Irrelevant because, I mean, wow, I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. I didn't think he would actually have enough damage to 100-0 him, but the moment Canna did commit underneath the tower to either trade 1-for-1 or realize because the TP, I think the whole game plan was I'm setting up a play for Nisqy to then come and clean up, right?
And it's oftentimes why we see in this matchup early Merc threads coming through for the Jayce. Doesn't actually go for it in this time around, and not having that magic resist definitely came back to bite him a little bit. Couldn't get the knock away from the ultimate because he was CC'd for so long as well, and ends up falling down. So, nice job from SK to get that kill, but KC have to respond on the opposite side because they saw the TP from Nisqy top end.
Yeah, and good cross map from KC. They get first tower, 600 gold, they steal away a red buff. Yes, you lose a kill and a herald for it, but SK will take a tower of their own. First tower does still give you more gold, and although there is still a gold lead for SK, it's shrunk to less than 1,000 their advantage now. Feels a lot like the first series of the day, lads.
Well, I mean, it's the nature of the comps, right?
Yeah.
I mean, SK want a team fight, KC want to scale. They're kind of waiting for the kind of mid to late game objectives, which are getting close to, admittedly. Both teams at 1 dragon. The 3rd dragon of the game will likely be the next big point of contention. Unfortunately, that is 3 minutes away, so that means that teams funnel on prioritizing itemization, and you want to try and get as many items as you can ahead of the next fight.
Yeah, I think at least for KC, it feels like they're trying to set up for some sort of play off of the vision that they have on the bottom side. well, at least that they invest in the bottom side. I think you could try and move that in towards mid lane, but with how low top lane tower is as well, I think you are fine to try and make a play here, but having invested that much of your vision on the bottom side, it's going to take a long L wall for you to actually set up enough information on the top half for Karmine Corp to actually go for some sort of play, and then SK try to punish that lack of information by playing very far forward here.
You can see Luon and Nisqy kind of holding the line so that Targamas and the rest of Karmine Corp don't have an easy route into the mid lane. They have to go back behind the Razor Beaks. The Rift Tower charges in, and although it doesn't take the tower, a single love tap from Rahel will do so. So it's 2 towers to 1. Might be more as SK transition their pressure into the bottom side. Irrelevant already pushed up this wave, and you can see Canna backing all the way to the tier 2 to make sure he's safe. SK will be able to get 2 towers off this push. Should be answered by Vladi in the top side with one of Karmine Corp's.
All other towers being down for SK is pretty nice though, because Rahel is never really going to give up mid tower. We already talked about how good he is at holding control there, and even then having the ultimate if you're really under threat of mid lane turret. As Targamas, yeah, he'll be able to get out. But if you're looking at the reverse side, if Rahel is able to get a lot of control over mid, suddenly Luon can start to lean into these side lanes, change the impact of Irrelevant versus Canna, give an opportunity for Nisqy to find that play on Vladi, and I think that's where KC are going to start to struggle now.
I mean, KC is slowly but surely losing more and more pressure throughout the map. Again, though, the big strength of their composition is that its range is going to be lethal as the game continues. They've got a huge amount of poke at their disposal, and the hardest thing of dealing with poke is being able to find the engage. The only drawback is that they're against some very strong engaged champions that really want to fight you. Kennen flanks are going to be terrifying to have to deal with. You have to make sure you control your flanks as much as you can. Something internationally we've seen many of the best teams in the world do, where like if the enemy team is a Kennen, their supports will just track you permanently and make it impossible for you to ever find a flank. So Targamas' role is going to be super important. Bear in mind, he is only level 6 right now. And
Luon's only 7.
Yeah, poor supports. They spend so much time roaming in the current meta that they are often starved of experience. He is half the level of his AD carry. Does, of course, make him very squishy, especially without the Warmogs completed. Here we are, Dragon 35 seconds. That's going to be the objective that we're keeping our eyes on. Irrelevant wants to push out that top wave, so Isma's going to shadow him to make sure that he can get that push, along with securing the crab. See, he is still hesitant, no information gained. TP committed bot. SK fully setting up for this dragon.
I do think there's a lack of cohesion between Luon and Isma right now, though. Isma going up towards the top side to try and get Scuttle Crab and set up a little bit of vision for Irrelevant means that KC get to move into bot side and clear all the vision that Luon just put through. So Karmine Corp actually in a decent position to try and go for this.
TP behind. Canna's up towards the top side. Magnet Storm. Closer getting pulled back. Trying to get away, but the Nature's Grasp will only save him for a second. Twisted advance forward, still he falls. Irrelevant goes in with the Slicing Maelstrom, upset with the cleanse immediately. Irrelevant able to survive. Closer in the end, takes him with the Leandries, but Targamas pays for it with his life. SK find 2, Vladi an upset. Still healthy enough to challenge.
But look at the the HP bars on KC's side are strong enough that there's no way that SK can actually commit to this dragon. They need to get a reset off, they need to replenish. Given that they don't have those Warmogs completed yet, we see the initiation come through, and it starts with a TP along with an engage from Luon.
Yeah, the vision hadn't been cleared out by KC in that bottom half, so nice teleport ward for Irrelevant to come in, but even then, like, Closer does get caught out here, and Irrelevant goes for the flash over to try and set up for the continual, but Targamas kind of spots him out. They end up getting Irrelevant off the back of it, so it's a 1-for-1, and Targamas couldn't quite get the distance it looks like to E back over towards Vladi. So it will be 2 kills over, but KC back out onto the map first, are able to get the dragon.
Ultimately, a good play for KC, right? You end up trading 2-for-1, 1-for-1, and you end up securing the dragon, setting yourself up nicely. Of course, this dragon isn't massive in the whole context of the game; it just gets you one step closer to the soul. Targamas going to be taking a small amount of chip damage as SK turns their attention to the top side of the map, setting up some deep wards inside KC's top side jungle. Also eyeing up that top tower, instead for now, leaving it alone. The vision on the side of KC will spot out Isma on the bot side of the map. Maybe there's a play opportunity here for Canna, but he's not going to take any gamble. So now we kind of return to that neutral state where both these teams are eyeing up that next possible objective. There's a mid tower available for KC to try and siege onto. Now that 2 items are being completed for top, mid, AD, there's a world where KC can leverage their poke to start sieging. The problem is with Misfits, Misfortunes, ultimate being available. That wave clear is always going to be difficult to deal with. The Corki wave clear too. It's kind of why you end up in these neutral mid-game states, because on the one hand, sure, we have these tools, but the tools on the other side can often mitigate and limit your options.
I think it's also just the information game that favors KC so much. I mean, look at the wards that are littered all over the map for Karmine Corp, yet there's so little for SK, so you're pretty much able to spot it exactly what SK are trying to do. And it looks like they're trying to get on towards Canna in this top side, but I don't know if you got the follow-up here.
Luon jumps forward, Shadowing Strike is going to connect. Isma dashing across the wall, Glacial Prism will get the slow. Canna still has Flash here, Isma stepping further forward, flashes away, the TP behind now, there's the quickness in by Targamas, but he's stunned before he can get to Nisqy, and the Magna Storm comes down, closer down to half HP, Luon just surviving. Rahel trying to put the damage down from across the wall as well as Irrelevant will join the fray. Vladi dashes in, gets the flash out as well, but immediately delivers the Slicing Mountain to his backline, upset and closer. The last two standing for Karmine Corp.
It's a close fight, a 2v3 affair. I felt like SK was over-forcing that fight incredibly hard. Once the TP came in from Vladi, I thought that fight would end much worse for SK, but they're able to make it work. A clutch Irrelevant ultimate gets shut down very quickly by Upset, and it ends up being a 2-for-3. No major objectives going to go on either side. It's just going to be a couple kills traded.
Yeah, I agree with you though, Vedi. I thought that was going to be the way overextension coming through. The fact that you end up like missing with the ultimate kind of ends up getting away, but KC just couldn't really collapse fast enough to get the punishment off, and now SK stepping back onto the rift. Actually, we're going to get the look here, but when it missed, this is already so much used, but Closer's ultimate doesn't really connect onto anyone because Nisqy's able to hide in behind Isma, so as Targamas tries to go forward into Nisqy, there's not really a play. Luon barely escapes away, but now Targamas might be caught.
Targamas has no flash, immediately locked up, CC'd, permafrost. A little bit more as Targamas dashes. No Warmogs yet for him, so won't be able to heal up too much. Has that Gleaming Quill for a little bit. Glacial Prison connects onto Upset, who has the cleanse back up. Closer goes in with the Twisted Advance, but he falls first. Irrelevant gets him. And the Hextech Rocket Belt.
Another pick secured. Targamas was the target, but it ends up being Closer who drops. He doesn't have the flash, and once SK commits to the play in mid, Canna could be in some danger.
Isma dashes forward just for the Gromp, gonna steal away some of this jungle. Irrelevant could look for a Slicing Maelstrom, but doesn't have a flash yet. Instead, SK will get some chip damage on this tower.
Gonna have to back away though, so even though it's just kind of the pick, they're just gonna be in reset mode now, try and move that vision. Well, the vision they've already established in this bottom side, they want to try and play around for the dragon in a minute and a half. So again, push in this mid wave, continue to keep Karmine Corp back in their own base, and just deny them access, because a second dragon, an Inferno Dragon for themselves, would be absolutely fantastic right now.
Nisqy TPs into the top lane to get a little bit of pressure once again towards that tier 2. They've kept that wave stacked up towards the Karmine Corp side of the map for the last few minutes or so. Vladi not going up there, so a wave is going to die. That's golden experience lost by Karmine Corp as Targamas dashes back away with the grand entrance. SK could start up the Baron. Irrelevant looking for a flank position here towards the bottom side. Canna still no flash. Upset has his. Targamas has one of his own as well, and Irrelevant spotted by Canna there with the accelerated shock blast.
I do really like the vision that SK have set up though, because it gives multiple angles of attack for Irrelevant, who has flash to TP to if he wants to try and get in behind KC.
Closer has a blast cone to get in here. This feels risky. Control ward in the pit. Karmine Corp group up as 5. Nisqy takes a chunk. Irrelevant still looking for that flank position, but Targamas marking him well. Closer sitting on that blast cone, the Baron sitting on 2,000. It begins to reset as SK look for the engagement. Targamas with a good knockup. The Baron's going to be taken by Karmine Corp. Canna might fall for it alongside Targamas, but KC have pulled off the heist of the century. Take a Baron for the cost of your top and support. You take that any day.
SK left the Baron way too low, and now SK will try and get something back, but that was a massive blunder. KC just go over the wall. Sure, they get mid-tower, but if KC can try and use this Baron to get a bit back, could be great, but Dragon up and available, and you're still missing Canna.
I mean, we'll see how much KC can really get off the back of this Baron, because they lost kills, they're losing objectives. Ultimately, SK still have control over the map. We turn our attention to Vladi, who turned his attention towards top. He's going to try and push and walk this wave into that tower.
Oh, Luon flank. Irrelevant has TP as well. Closer is on his way across. They know Vladi's here. Ooh. Luon could be a bit of a nuisance. Shadowing Strike for the stun, and doesn't really want to do much more than that.
He doesn't want to overcommit, fair enough. The call from Irrelevant was, no, I want to catch top wave, I don't want to overcommit. But let's look back at this play. So the Baron has obviously started off by SK. They turn and look to fight. Closer ends up going into the pit, and he keeps it aggroed. And the range from Vladi and Upset, they just keep doing it. SK's attention is entirely drawn onto the fight, and they don't realize that the Baron is being taken away right underneath their noses. The idea from SK is good, but the response from KC secured them a Baron.
Yeah, once the Baron gets to anywhere that has a 3k HP number there, you just cannot leave it. It's so easy to burst it down from that position, and Close are able to get it. But as you say, Vedi, like, it's going to be kind of hard for KC to push out much off of this. Even Vladi investing that TP was kind of KC sending a bit of a Hail Mary play to see if they could get the tier 2 tower, but now has to reset and is just down a TP. So will be the last outer turret going down, but it's not the end of the world for SK.
I mean, I respect KC doing what they can, pushing out these waves, chipping away at these towers, those double cannons, empowered by the Baron buff. We'll take about 30–40% of the HP of that bot tower, setting up Canna to potentially take it later. They've pushed in mid, they're making way through bot. Ideally, they want to use this pressure to get some control over the SK bot side jungle, but they can't quite do that.
It does also delay the game for Karmine Corp, allowing this Ezreal to get to 3–4 items, allowing the Azir to do the same. Nature's Grasp comes out from Closer. Isma will be the only one caught by it. Closer goes forward with the Bramble Smash. Twisted Advance has to flash. Escapes the clutches of SK, but Closer overstepping that.
Certainly was. He threw the ultimate, ideally to zone SK away from the tower. The idea there being KC has a wave, they escort it in, and then they can secure the tower with their range. However, SK just stood their ground and fought, forcing Closer to actually disengage, realizing that a fight is not what he wanted to do. That allowed Rahel to then push out this mid wave, and now KC's forced to back to go and catch these waves. We kind of find ourselves 28 minutes into the game, 3 items being completed on both sides, decent amount of poke damage across the board. And while SK's team fighting is clearly stronger, the range from KC is something that SK will need to find a way to lock down if they want to be able to close out this game.
I think a huge amount of that, again, comes into getting this early vision control set up and trying to use that for TP flanks for Relevant to try to get these flank opportunities. Hasn't really been able to do that on the way back out here. With 2 minutes until Dragon, I think, again, it's use the push you have with Rahel in mid lane and then lean that into this bottom side jungle of KC. Because we've seen it so many times from teams like G2. If you can get just one cheeky ward, it sets up perfectly for Irrelevant, and the pincer maneuver is just so difficult for KC to deal with because they want to try and have you all coming from one direction. But if you can disrupt that, it's a disaster.
2 minutes on the Baron, minute 50 on the Drake would only be the third of the game for either of these teams. Still stacking Infernals, not something to be sniffed at. Always a welcome addition to your arsenal. Nisqy pushing out top, level 17 now, matched by Vladi. Irrelevant 1 level behind Canna, that tier 3 slicing Maelstrom, a very powerful tool for SK if they can get there. Currently their lead about 2.2k. I think too consequential as the game goes on. They are trying to control this top side of the map. Closer the one caught, no flash on him, remember, burnt it in that bot lane play, and the bullet time alongside Nisqy's rockets is enough to make him pay.
Yeah, they spotted Canna pushing in on that bottom side, so SK felt comfortable to move in and secure this top end. Finding Closer in the mix as well is just an extra little bit of a bonus. Not going to try and overcommit to more, though.
He's worried about TP flank.
Exactly, yeah.
Assuming. So he's going to respect it. Yeah, I also thought that he could go for that tower, but instead he will play it safe. Nisqy doing the same on the other side of the map. Ultimately, though, that's a consequence of SK just setting up nice vision control around the top side of the map. They're playing around their lanes well. They're using the control that they have to find picks. And they're able to find one onto Closer. Fortunately for KC, there's no objective on the map ready for them to secure, but the Dragon spawning in 35, Baron in about 55, means that both teams need to prioritize. What will be the next objective? Is it the Baron that's greater importance, or do they want to put themselves at soul point?
That's what I thought SK would lean into that bottom side to try and put pressure on towards the Dragon, but with the amount of vision they've already set up on this top side, it feels like they're going to end up playing towards this Baron area just because you've already established a lot of control there. But KC, first off the mark to get back in onto this bottom side, maybe SK feel the threat to try and contest.
They are overstacking mid though. They need someone to go and catch that bot wave ID. The TP invested now from Nisqy to join the bot jungle.
Had to burn the TP because True Shot Barrage caught him from upset in the top lane as he was basing, so has to burn that to get in. There is a ward behind Karmine Corp just above that rock face near where upset stands. Can't quite, oh, maybe we can see it on the mini map, but can't quite see it on the current view. Irrelevant looking for the flank. There's the Nature's Grasp. Luon will tank. True Shot Barrage coming out. Luon on the front line. Magnet Storm locks up Targamas, and he can't get on the back line at all. The Drake secured by Closer, but how much might Karmine Corp lose? The slicing Maelstrom Vladi slides him away, and Irrelevance low, so's Luon and Isma. Rahel now has to play in a 1v3. Canna chasing forward, Upset doing the same, it's two more. Vladi with a beautiful slide and glide in, allows Karmine Corp away back in the fight, and Upset's dashing forward. He cleanses away, the Krugs get in his way. Isma able to escape to fight another day.
But he's just keeping him busy, allowing them to push in the mid lane. KC with a massive teamfight win, completely swinging the momentum.
Is that the game?
A lot of the burst is gone. I mean, those death times are relatively long with 3 of the carries still alive. KC gonna look to try.
Isma needs to clear the wave, but it's so difficult with bodies in the way. Can he get onto it? He's trying desperately to get to them.
Nisqy up in 13. Isma distracts for a moment, but it might not be enough time. Karmine Corp begin to rip through the Nexus towers, and a flick of a switch for KC as they go 1-0 up in the series.
Just like that, a game that felt so firmly in the grasp of SK was lost a single fight. Canna's shock blast in that last fight was massive. It set up for Vladi to land the great ultimate, Upset to then clean up the fight, and that was all it took for them to end the game.
And we've heard so many times from Eragon how clutch Vladi has been in the EMEA Masters on this Azir pick. This was the pick he started to make his name on, and now in the LEC playoffs, we're seeing why this Azir is so held in such high regard for the KC mid laner.
All it took was a moment for Karmine Corp, and all we're going to take is a moment to go to a short break, as we'll be right back after this.
Wow, this is amazing.
I mean, I had a break, so... do you want to try? I'll be right back.
I want to try. Me? Maybe. What am I gonna do?
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Wow, Vedi! Incroyable, magnifique. What? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, keep it. He was so good.
Yours was better.
Hey, shouldn't you be on stage right now?
Hey, you got a pick. Tom Kent?
What? I was not expecting this.
And a crazy off-meta pick that secured you the win. How did you come up with it?
I just listened to my gut.